Hello, everybody. I just want to take a minute to thank you all for joining us for our Stay Healthy at Home webinar series. We host these every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Today, we are talking about taking action against sexual violence. But before we get started, I wanted to go over a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions for the hosts, you can place them in our chat box. You will see information in the chat box right now and a link for where you can visit this website that is being recorded, or you can watch other webinars that we have recorded and also sign up for future webinars. If you have any questions or technical issues, you can also place those in the chat box. Captions are enabled. You can just click down on your menu to start them, and then you can move them around your screen to where they are comfortable for you. And I want to thank you all again for being here. So we are joined today by Jennifer Harrison, the coordinator of sexual violence prevention. Jennifer Harrison is the coordinator of the ARC's Taking Action Against Sexual Violence program. She spent her early career in nonprofit writing and editing, then later in independent filmmaking. She has since gotten her master's in criminal justice from Boston University, focusing on reentry services and alternative programming. We are also joined by Sergeant Melissa Michalak. Melissa is a sergeant with the Edison Police Department. She's been a police officer for 20 plus years and is the wife of an Army veteran and the mother of 3 children. We want to thank you both so much for being here and presenting on this extremely important topic. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us. We know how important this topic is and how important it is to take a little time to refresh ourselves. This is a new program, taking action against sexual violence, and it's very important because most people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are not given sex ed in school, and there's very little discussion about it. So it's important to learn to identify sexual violence and protect yourself, so you know how to handle it. And that's why, even though it's a scary topic and it's not a fun topic, this is a little more lighthearted because it's the brighter side of things, which is it is preventable. And that's what we're here to do, is help everyone prevent sexual violence. Just to introduce myself again, my name's Jennifer, and I do not have my pronouns next to my name, only because I could not figure out how to get Zoom to help me do that. So I am she, her, if you need to refer to me. And this is Sergeant Melissa Michalak, and we will be hearing from her shortly. So welcome to Taking Action Against Sexual Violence. Little FYI, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which I didn't know until recently, but that makes it all the more important that we talk about this topic now. I want to very early on give a trigger warning, and I'll just read it for you. Today we are going to be talking about consent and sexual violence. If anyone has experienced sexual assault, rape, or other sexually non-consensual activities, or has family or friends that have gone through this experience, this might be an emotional topic for you. So if you need to, take a break. You can walk away. We're recording this and it will be archived, so you will not miss anything. And then you can just come back and join us when you feel you're ready, or you can watch it on replay. So what are we going to be learning today? Well, today we will review some important words and concepts. We are going to learn about sexual violence, which sometimes is abbreviated as SV. You'll be seeing that in some of the slides today. We'll be talking about types of SV, We're going to find out about risk. We're going to find out how to protect ourselves and what to do if we do experience SV. There are a lot of resources out there for all of us. And there may be a game or two, because like we believe, even webinars should be a little bit fun from time to time. Okay, if you have any questions, comments, you want to share something, and also during the game, there is a chat button. If you move your cursor, either mine is at the top, but for some of you, it'll be at the bottom. There's a little chat button. You click it, and then you can type it in. And at the end of the webinar, we can go over any answers we get. Although during the game, if our amazing helpers, Erin and Frankie, want to yell out some of the answers we're getting, they can feel free to do that, but no pressure, Erin and Frankie. Okay. So I'm going to pass this over to Melissa.
Hey. Important words to know. Consent. What is consent? Consent is basically the agreement between people to engage in sexual activity. Both people have to want to participate, and they have to let each other know that they want to. Sexual violence or sexual assault. This occurs when someone forces or manipulates, and they can manipulate by them making them feel bad or guilty, or like they can't say no. So you have to have that feeling inside you that you cannot say no. Someone else into unwanted sexual activity without their consent. This can be either verbal or physical. It can include inappropriate touching, coerced nudity, sexual harassment, which can be sexual words or pictures, as well as rape, and sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is very similar to assault, but it happens over and over again. Sexual abuse would not be one time. It could be repeatedly or on multiple occasions.
Okay, so has anyone heard the song? Let's talk about sex. That's what we're going to do. Sexuality is part of the human experience, and everybody feels it. There is often a misconception that people with IDD, which is intellectual and developmental disabilities, that they are not sexually interested, or some people think there's a hypersexuality. Neither is true. Everybody is the same with varying levels of interest. But it's important to talk about. And sometimes abuse happens. It's the sad fact. So we want to help you learn different types so you can recognize them and respond to them. And that's why we want to talk about consent. Okay, so if you remember what Melissa just told us, consent is an agreement between people to engage in sexual activity. All parties involved, both people, need to agree that they want to participate. It is sexual assault if one participant does not want to do it and the other tries to make it happen. So it comes down to communication, giving your consent so the other person recognizes it, and they're giving consent so you can recognize it. If you or the other person says no, and the other individual forces them to do it, that is assault. If you say no and they keep asking over and over again, come on, you know you want to do it. You said you would, so now you have to. If a no comes up at any time, then that is a no. If not, it's harassment. Even if you don't say the word no, but you shake your head no, you push them away, you try to leave, you call for help, whatever it is, then you have not given consent. The only time it is okay for someone to touch you in your sexual parts is when they are helping you bathe, if you need that help, when a doctor or nurse is doing an exam to make sure you're healthy, or when you have consented to be sexual with someone and both of you had said yes. And now I'm going to give this next slide over to Melissa.
So the most important thing you need to know is that victims are never at fault for the assault or abuse. If anybody tries to tell you that it's your fault, they're not telling the truth. Remember, victims are never at fault. Even if you kiss them back, maybe you laughed at their jokes. Maybe you were in the middle of being sexual with them and then you changed your mind. It's okay to say no in the middle of that. If you let them know it's a no, and by saying it and showing it, they must stop. It is never your fault if you've been abused or assaulted. Consent is all about communication. And remember that communication, as we stated before, can always be verbal or physical. Consent should be clear and given freely. What does clear and freely mean? Make sure, disregard that one. Know what it is that you're about to do. A kiss, a touch, sex. Decide if you want to do it with that partner at that time in that place. Understand your feelings. What do you feel about doing it? Talk with the partner about your feelings, your decisions, and theirs. Decide together what methods you want to use to prevent unwanted pregnancies and STIs. Know the local laws regarding the age of consent. Does anybody know in New Jersey what that age is? In New Jersey, people under the age of 16 cannot consent. Identify when a situation may be harmful and recognize the warning signs of the abuse or being controlled.
Excellent. Here's that little game we promised. I should have put music over it. That would have made it more fun, but we'll have fun anyway. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give a scenario, a situation that happened, and how, let's say, you felt during it. And then you can say, answer, did you or did you not give consent in this situation? So let's give an example. Let's say you're in a situation and you said you did not consent. And then your partner asked please over and over again, really, really nicely. And you felt guilty, like you then had to say yes. So you did. Was that actually consent? What do we think? Oh, did anyone? Oh, I see. Somebody said no. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's reveal. No, that was coercion. The yes was not given freely, so it was not consent. What if you're in a situation where the person, they pulled you into a room, right? And you felt helpless, like you couldn't fight back, and then you had sex. Was that a case of giving consent or not? Oh, we've gotten 4 no's. Let's see, we have 4 people say no, that was not consensual. Correct. That was actually assault. That was sexual assault. So if somebody pulls you, pushes you, makes you, then it is not consensual and it is assault. Let's see here. What if it's someone who's supposed to be helping you, whether it's carrying your books or helping you with other care. And they said, if you don't have sex, then I will not help you with your care anymore. How you feel? You feel scared because you need that help. So you do it. Does that mean you gave consent? Free consent? Oh, I see another no. 2 more no's. More no's. Ah, somebody said no, that's intimidation. Let's see. Same. No, that was a threat or intimidation. Same thing. So you guys have really got this consent thing down, I think, because so far everyone's gotten it. Let's try something different. Let's see, they sent a picture of them naked to me. Didn't touch me, nothing, but they did send that picture. And I'm shocked because I did not want that picture. I did not ask for that picture. I certainly did not invite that picture. Did I consent to that? I got a no. Another no. Let's see. I'm trying to trick you guys and it's not working. Nope, that was harassment. So it doesn't mean that someone has to touch you for it to mean that you were a victim of sexual violence, because this is sexual harassment, being made to look at something like that when you don't want to. What if someone says they won't love you anymore if you don't do it? So you do love each other and they say, I think that's going to go away if you don't do this for me. And you know, you want to say yes just because you don't want them to go away. You don't want to lose them. And this happens a lot. Is that consent? I have a no. See, can people who love each other commit sexual violence? Oop. Now we have that's coercion. Let's see. Same thing. It was not consent. It was manipulation. And no matter what the word is that I'm attaching to it, harassment, coercion, manipulation, all that amounts to is it's not consent and it's an act of sexual violence. How about this? They invite you to a movie and you say yes, and you are excited because you want to get to know them. Is that giving consent to going out on a date? Let's see. I'm looking at the chat right now. That's why my eyes are dark. Oh, yes, I see. Yes. Yes, there was one no, but a couple of yeses. This was actually a situation in which you've given consent, especially because of the word excited. You felt excited to say yes. You felt like you really wanted to say yes. And that's a very good indicator that you are giving your free and clear consent. Finally, we're going to give one more example. See if I can trick you. What if they try to kiss you and you smile and you kiss them back and you feel happy because you like this person? By kissing you, was it an act of sexual violence? Or actually, was it giving consent, I should say? That was, I phrased that wrong. Let's see. Was this consent? Yeah, people are like, what are you asking? Sexual violence or sexual consent? I was actually asking if it's consent and I said it wrong, but the answer is yes. You gave enthusiastic consent, which is exactly what you want to give in a situation. That was fun. I want to play a few more of those, but we're not going to. Quick question. Does everyone know what enthusiastic means? I'll tell you so. Thank you, Blaine. You were correct. Enthusiastic means showing enjoyment and having a good time. So it's a very happy yes, is basically what it is. And let's see. So what you want is an enthusiastic yes. Let's just very quickly look at these pictures. What do you see here? I'm seeing a lot of smiling, a lot of people who are touching each other, not one person touching the other except the guy on the side of the frame, but he's tapping the other one. So an enthusiastic yes means you're very, very happy to say yes. it's what you want, you've communicated that you want it, and there should be no question in the other person's mind. Now, this goes for everyone. I'm going to name probably not everyone, but male people, female people, non-binary people, gender non-conforming people, intersex people, members of the LGBTQ+ community, teenagers over the age of 16, because remember, if you are not 16 yet, even if you give an enthusiastic yes, it's not consent. You're not old enough. So if you're a teenager over 16 or you are 16 and you're enthusiastic, great. Adults, people who are heterosexual, everyone. Okay, I'm going to pass over the mic to Melissa now.
Sexual violence. Everyone should remember that sexual violence is the same as sexual assault. It means that someone has forced or manipulated someone else into unwanted sexual activity without their consent. This can include inappropriate touching, coerced nudity, and sexual harassment. And remember, this can be sexual words or photos, pictures, as well as rape. What does sexual violence look like? Sometimes sexual violence can be physical, rape, attempt to rape, unwanted touching. Your body's going to feel it. Deep down inside, you're going to know. You're going to have that feeling that something's not right. Sometimes it's verbal, unwanted sexual conversations, coerced dating, coerced nudity. You will hear it. So just like above, your body felt it, now you're going to hear it. Those chats, those conversations are going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's visual, online pornography, online sexual chats, showing nudity or sexual content without consent. You will see it. So the three things: your body can feel it, your body can hear it, and you will see it. But all the time, you will know it's sexual violence because you will feel uncomfortable. These three things, your body feeling it, you hearing it, and you seeing it, will make you feel uncomfortable. It's one of those things that you have to trust your instincts, and you're going to know.
Okay. So safe, good touches feel caring, like something you want. Unsafe or bad touches hurt your body or your feelings. It makes you feel uncomfortable or bad or like it's something you don't want. So again, just like Melissa said, trust those feelings because you will know. And you can't say, well, what if I feel it and I'm wrong? It is the feeling. So when it's unwanted, you have not given consent. Here is a quote from a woman named Hannah, who's a survivor of sexual assault. She spoke about it in a very clear and important way. She said, but sexual assault, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, these are all instances of feeling entitled to something that does not belong to you. Instances of taking advantage, instances of using your power to hurt someone else. So people who commit these violations have no right to do that. Nobody deserves to get your yes. You give it only when you want to, and you don't owe anybody a yes. So always remember that. Yes, so I have one more game. I don't know how fun it'll be, but we're gonna try. In the chat, try typing what an enthusiastic yes might sound like. I'll start. Definitely. That's how I would say it, an enthusiastic yes. Does anybody have an example? Let's see. Absolutely. We got an absolutely with 3 exclamation points. That sounds enthusiastic to me. Anybody else? Wahoo, says Melissa. Wonderful. What else are people saying? How about a thumbs up? Great. Patricia says, great, with 2 exclamation points, which is still very enthusiastic. So what I'm getting for all of these is very happy words and a lot of let's do it. That was one of the answers. That is a great answer. Okay. So these are very clear ideas. Okay. Also, let me see. Getting consent. What you want to do is hear that enthusiastic yes. And a good way to see if you're getting it is to say, is this okay? Can I do this? Is it all right if we go forward with this? And just checking. And if somebody at any point says, I don't know, or no, or it doesn't feel right, I'm not sure, what is it going to be like? That's a clue to stop, respecting what the other person is saying. And you can either have a conversation if they want to know more, like, what is this going to entail? What is it going to feel like? Or if they say no, or I don't think so, that is your clue to say, okay. Then you give your enthusiastic, okay, we're fine and we're stopping. If you did not give consent and you do have sex or any kind of sexual contact or see pictures, then they have done something wrong. And I really love this quote, and you can say it to yourself all the time. It's written, your body, your rules. And you can say to yourself, my body, my rules. I decide what happens. So now we're going to talk about control. What do you think? Does everyone know what control means, or what I mean by control? Let's see. If not, I can just say it. I don't want to force you to type. If your fingers are tired, there was a lot of exclamation points going on. Control is basically power. In this case, it's the power over your own body and keeping it safe. So there are a couple of things that put people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities at greater risk of sexual violence. One is called forced intimacy. So I'm just going to read this. Forced intimacy is the concept that those with disabilities have to bear themselves both emotionally and physically, whether they wish to or not, in order to get basic quality care. So for some people, it means someone else is giving you your bath. It means somebody else is changing your clothes. They're helping you in the bathroom, even things like brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. It's touches that, whether you want them or not, it's important to your care. But it means it's part of your life. So there is going to be an element of that. So you have to recognize what is part of the care and what is actually not part of the care. If you're getting a bath, all things should have to do with getting you clean, getting you dry, and getting you out. Then there's something you may not have known the name of. I didn't until I made this slide, actually, and it's called the culture of compliance. So it's the idea that a person with a disability is expected to comply with somebody else's wants, needs, or demands. You may have heard it phrased as, be good, don't be a problem, don't cause an uproar. just agree with them. It's easier. Trying to make yourself as easy to be around as possible. Now, do we all want that? To an extent, yes. You want to be thought of as easy to get along with, someone who's pleasant to be around. However, this culture of compliance does not extend to sexuality. You are not being a good girl or a good guy or a good person by saying yes. That is not expected of you, and it comes down to your body, your rules. So if you don't want your Brussels sprouts, you might eat them anyway, just so as not to cause a problem. I do that. But when it comes to sexuality, no. Let's see. Right. So Melissa, is this your slide? I don't see the number on it.
I'll go for it though.
Okay.
People with intellectual and developmental disabilities are 7 times more likely to experience sexual abuse. These 7 times is important because this number is so long, so broad, like 7 times more than somebody else. Does everybody understand that? It's kind of hard to explain this. 7 times more. So maybe Jennifer, you can help me with this one.
Well, think about it like for every one person who experiences sexual violence, one person who does not have a disability, there will be 7 people who do have a disability that experience it. So it's just a much greater chance.
So if everybody wants to think of that in terms of, let's say, M&Ms, if you want to, you know, bunch them up 7 times versus 1, you know, you can see how large of a number that is. You know, picture it not necessarily with people, but with another item, and you'll see that that's such a greater increase for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Yeah, that was excellent. And there are reasons why. One may be a lack of sexual education. So people don't know what to look out for. They may not even be familiar with their own body parts or all of them. The culture of compliance that we talked about, just be good, do what people ask. A lack of self-advocacy and intuition practice, meaning recognizing when something doesn't feel right and then being able to say no because of it. The reliance on others for care, which is the forced intimacy, and then a fear of reporting, which is very real. A lot of people are afraid to report, and we're going to talk about that later. That's definitely in Melissa's wheelhouse because she is a police officer. But one thing that's very important for you to know, this increased likelihood for sexual violence has nothing to do with the disability. It's not because there is a disability. It's because of the way some people view it. So it is not the fault of the person who experiences the violence or has the disability, but the person who is committing the violence. So very important to know. It is never, never your fault. So you have an important voice and you can speak up about what you want, what you do not want, and what you need. That's part of self-advocacy.
Everybody has the right to speak up for what they want and what they don't want. Know your rights. Everybody. We all have the right to be safe at home, at school, at the doctors. We have the right to be safe from violence and abuse. All rape crisis centers are legally required to provide services to people with disabilities. We have the right to privacy no matter where we live, no matter what town we live in. We have the right to decide what happens to our bodies. Remember, our bodies are rules. It's the law.
Well read. So how can I protect myself? Well, there are three main ways to protect yourself. One, education. That is learning about your bodies, learning about how sex works, learning about the consequences, like pregnancy or disease, or sexual violence. Setting boundaries, letting people know this is what I want and this is what I don't want and will not accept. And then always remembering consent. If you walk away with nothing else today, please walk away understanding that you have the right to consent or not consent. And just a little aside for all of you self-advocates and parents and caregivers and professionals out there, there's something called role playing, where it's like, okay, I'm going to play the person who has to give consent. You play the person who's asking for consent. And then you play with ways of saying it, just like we did with the enthusiastic yes game. So don't only practice giving consent, but giving non-consent, saying no, or I'm not comfortable with that, or I understand you're upset, but the answer is no. And the more you practice, the easier it gets, I promise. So something you can do maybe over the dinner table or on your drive home from your next dentist appointment.
And also with setting boundaries, don't be afraid when you're going into a new relationship or your first relationship to be open about what you expect, what you approve of, what you disapprove of. Don't be afraid to have those chats. It may make the other person that you're in a relationship with feel more comfortable. So have those open conversations. Don't be intimidated to have those conversations, because in the long term, it might help you feel more comfortable in those positions. And it's definitely going to also help the other person understand what you're looking for and what you're not looking for at that time. And those boundaries can change. It's okay to have changing boundaries. You might start with one step and in the end have 5 steps. And that's okay. It's okay to have a few steps forward and take a few steps back. Don't be afraid to be open with that communication, because as we said in the beginning, communication is very important.
That was such a good point, Melissa. I love that. It can change. So that's why we come back to communication. If anything changes, you let the other person know, and they should do the same for you. And that's actually great in a relationship, to set that as a rule. I'll tell you, you tell me. So there are no questions.
And also, one thing to also keep in back of your mind, can you give consent today and not give consent tomorrow? What does everyone think about that? Can you renege and take away your consent? Absolutely.
Yep.
It might be okay today, but in the future, if you don't want it anymore, you can take it away. Okay, it is not permanent.
We have someone here named Blaine who said it really well. They wrote, consent is not a one-time question.
Exactly.
And that is exactly right. So
and again, that is why communication is so vital.
Absolutely. Okay. This is Melissa's, this is her profession.
So here we go. In the case of sexual violence, the number one thing, the most important, and one of the first things besides taking care of yourself, is we want to report it. Okay, the person who committed the abuse will not be able to hurt you or anyone else again if you report it. We have to document it. And by document it is, how do we do that? How do we get help? So let's look at some good resources. Psychotherapy, meditation, family support, speaking with your life adjustment team, and those in your community integration program. And we want to tell, okay, in some places that we can tell, if it's an emergency, we can always call 911. We can come to the local police department. We can call the local police department. We are open 24 hours, 7 days a week, every police department in the state of New Jersey. So 911 is always available. Coming to the local police station or the state police, we are always available there. Weekends, holidays, there is always somebody here. Okay, same thing with the National Sexual Assault Hotline. You can always call there and you can go straight to the hospital.
Excellent. Yes.
Three tips to reduce the risk of sexual abuse. You have the right to say no and leave. Give that strong, adamant no and walk out that door. Trust your instincts. Like we said earlier, listen to that little voice inside your head. Trust what you're feeling inside. Do not let others touch you where you do not want to be touched. And remember, we keep saying this, it's not your fault if you are abused. It is always the abuser's fault. If you are forced to listen to someone talk to sexually to you, forced to look at or participate in sexual pictures or movies, forced to kiss someone, forced to look at or touch someone's private parts, touched in a sexual way when you don't want to be touched, forced or tricked, manipulated to have sex, that is all sexual violence. So all those things I just said constitute sexual violence. No one should ever touch you if they are your family, if they are staff, whether it's at the doctor's office, whether it's at a treatment facility, a school. If you don't know them, or the big one that we keep harping on, if you say no. So what have we learned today? We learned what sexual violence is and what it looks like, what consent means and how important that consent is, the ways we give consent. Go ahead, Jennifer, how do we give it?
Enthusiastically.
Ways to say no and let them know you mean it. Ways to report the sexual violence and where to get help. And again, the big one, you have your right to your own body. Who can put in the chat the fastest what the quote is regarding the right to your own body?
I actually had to stop and think about that for a second.
Anybody?
We could say it together. Oh, well done. And Candace came, oh, yes, we got a bunch. My body, my rules. My body, my choice. Excellent. So here are just a few resources. You can either come back to this in the archives and stop on this slide and write down some of these, or if you want, what I like to do is take a picture of it with my camera, so I have it all the time. There is a very fantastic YouTube series by the National Council on Independent Living, and it's a 10-episode series that's basically sex education and sexual safety. And it's really well done, and it's quick and it's fun to watch. So it's a great place to start. For parents or caregivers, there is an online curriculum if you're interested in maybe doing some of this education at home. The Center for Parent Information and Resources has a bunch of resources that you can access. And then, sorry. There is a guide. The University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities has a bunch of guides available. And I just want to back up for 1 second very quickly. When we were talking about reporting and some psychological resources in case of sexual violence, one idea is to have a safety plan in mind with your family. So you have written down important phone numbers, including community resources and people you can talk to, people you trust and who you know well. Lists of things to take in case you need to leave the home. So it's something in place where you know you're okay if something happens. I had written down, you have the right not to be pressured, coerced, or hurt. Remember that. If you do decide to go to a therapist, this therapist should be trained in sex abuse, assault treatment, and IDD, also in child and adult therapy. So because there are overlapping populations here, you want to get someone who's trained to work specifically with you, because we should all get individualized help. Also, these therapists should be trained in nonverbal mind-body healing modalities that do not require intellectual processing components. So that's something to look into too. You can always reach out to the ARC of New Jersey or other resources to find out more about this. And finally, payment for therapy can be obtained through victim witness programs, community mental health centers, or developmental disability centers. And finally, thank you so much for being here and spending this time with us. There was very few technological issues, so that was good. And we hope you had a good time and learned a bit. And we encourage you to stay in touch with us and keep coming to these seminars. I'm going to ask Erin or Frankie if they have anything they want to contribute.
I just want to say thank you so much. That was such amazing information. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box now. Or if you would like to talk privately, you can get Jennifer's information from our website in case you don't want to talk right now, and that's okay. It's important to make sure that you are comfortable when reaching out and talking to someone. So if you also think of any other information or questions that you have after this webinar is over, you can always reach out to me, and I will put my email in the chat box as well. And again, I just want to thank you all so much for being here today. This was fantastic.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Melissa.
Oh, someone does have a question.
Oh.
If an enthusiastic yes is given for a kiss or the movies, does that translate into an enthusiastic yes to sexual consent?
That is an excellent question. If you say yes specifically to the movies, then go to the movies for sure. But if you agree to go to the movies, that does not mean the kiss is included. Carmen says, I don't think so. That's right. If you give a yes to the kiss, then that is absolutely consent, and you should feel good about it if you do give the yes. If you don't want to, it should be a no, and then it is no longer consent. That was such a good question. Thank you.
And we have a lot of people thanking you for a lovely presentation, which I want to echo. It was fantastic.
Thank you. And thank you to Melissa and Erin and Frankie and everybody who came. It was really fun. So thank you so much.
So you can reach out to that link that Frankie put in the chat to register for upcoming webinars, or to get in contact with us or one of our hosts from our webinars. And again, I hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.